So we need to have a serious talk about how this series is going. I think it's safe to say that when you're coaching defense, you need to have a goal. And I also think it's safe to say that when coaching against someone as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the goal is to get it out of his hands by any means necessary. And I gotta tell you, watching last night's game was maddening. In my Game 1 breakdown, we saw virtually no adjustments to guard this guy, just a lot of shrugs and whelps and excuses about the fouls he's drawing. But I shit you not, the first time that they executed a coherent strategy with their man-to-man defense was the last possession of the third quarter when the game was already over. What I've been clamoring for is sending a second defender at him early to just get it out of his hands and then deny the heck out of him so he can't get it back as the shot clock winds down. The mantra should be, let the others beat you. And they force a tough, contested, off-foot runner from Jalen Williams and get the stop. Now let's look at what they were doing earlier to defend the newly minted MVP of the league. First off, I've said they can't play Rudy heavy minutes deep into the playoffs and hope to win these games. And there's certainly no hope if you want to show Shai the same defensive tactics each time, like playing drop coverage. I don't love the effort by McDaniels to get around the screen, and now SGA has the middle to work with. If Rudy's going to try and turn and run with his hands above his shoulders, he won't be as quick or balanced, and things like this will happen often. An obvious foul that doesn't involve any type of grifting from Gilgeous-Alexander. Now we know how good he is at drawing fouls, so why would you play a strategy that allows him to dictate the possession? Another pick and roll defended with drop coverage that gives him free reign into the lane, and while Rudy did better to bring his arms down so he could slide laterally quicker, SGA draws contact and gets 2 more free throws. OKC knew at any moment they wanted, they could bring Rudy's man up to ball screen and Gobert would drop while SGA's man chased. They easily could have had Edwards jump to the ball here and hedge or blast the ball while Rudy picked up Chet in the corner. Instead, SGA puts his man in jail, Rudy is in no man's land defending air, and he hits his patented sidestep jumper. The bigger reason why I think Rudy can't play heavy minutes though is because he doesn't help on offense and his hands are terrible. While we do see Rudy shadow SGA in support of McDaniels, this barely happened to the point where I think Rudy was freelancing. Now, Rudy had no reason to vacate his spot. He could reset the defensive 3-second count by stepping out on the strong side of the lane. As soon as he retreats, we get a drive and a pull. For what it's worth, Shai doesn't draw this foul and they get a stop. But if you think both of Rudy's hands are bad, imagine how only one is, especially when he brings the ball down and just lets Dort strip him clean. But this was shocking. With poor spacing on the weak side by OKC, the Wolves allow him to isolate in the post. I don't care how good a defender you think McDaniels is. Just send a double team and let anyone else beat you. Randall is just standing there doing nothing as SGA hits a gimme. Speaking of post-ups, in what world would the defense ever let him post up one-on-one, especially if it's against someone smaller like DiVincenzo? What are the coaches doing allowing this to happen? With Hartenstein standing on the block and Wallace in the weak side corner, it would be easy for Rudy to get over there and smother him. Instead, they just let Dante get abused. Can you hear me shaking my head? In my Game 1 breakdown, I urged the defense to start showing an aggressive second defender to get it out of his hands, but many seemed consistently willing to just switch this and let a smaller defender get cooked by SGA's elite mid-range game. When they set these ball screens near half court, they can blast him, especially because this high on the floor, there is enough room for the defense to rotate and recover. Instead, Edwards wanders into the area, but he's not playing defense. His arms aren't up to pressure the pass into a steal, and they give up a wide open 3. They dodged a bullet here, but at least someone else shot it. I felt Edwards lacked any sense of urgency on the defensive end. Midway through the first, they had a great chance to double with their best athletes and get it out of his hands. And even when he does give it up, look how Ant is just walking around despite guarding SGA. This is crazy to think you can do this and stop anybody, much less a guy that can explode to his left like this and finish with a gliding 2-foot floater high off the glass with touch. The lack of urgency also concerned me to no end. Off a made layup, no less. There is no recognition that Shai is bringing the ball up. The entire defense should be focused on stopping him and getting it out of his hands, yet he doesn't even get picked up until the high school 3-point line. Now you've got 3 guys stuck in the paint, and they get lucky Wallace misses the wide open shot. If you're wondering why I sound obsessed over getting it out of SGA's hands, here's a good reason. But first, they're lucky they escape with a one-on-one on DiVincenzo. But once it goes to the others, look how much trouble they have creating advantages to score. Having Isaiah Joe and Chet Holmgren trying to attack McDaniels and Rudy is a win for the defense, as Chet practically airballs a 10-footer. If they haven't figured out who they must focus on to stop, then this series is already over. Randle is literally walking around out there as his man is setting a ball screen. He should be sprinting to meet Shai at the point of attack and get it out of his hands. Instead, he lets him split it easily, and the only thing that saved this possession for Minnesota was what I've been harping on. Just let the others try and beat you. A J-Dub Dort pick and roll out top is much easier to defend. And now SGA is throwing up his hands, watching Chet try his slow release over Rudy's contest, and boom, that's all they needed to do. The end of the first half was particularly upsetting to me, as the Wolves have a prime opportunity to send a second defender at him knowing he wants to wind the clock down. Instead, they just let him get into his bag and shoot the step back three in rhythm. Then, after a particularly foolish illegal screen by DiVincenzo allows the Thunder another opportunity, they again don't send a second defender at him when DiVincenzo was right there to get it out of his hands. McDaniels was out of position from the start, and he gets two more legit free throws for nothing. In my Game 1 breakdown, not only did I suggest sending a second defender at him, I said they need to try some zone defense considering how well it worked for Denver. Well, wouldn't you know it, they ran a bunch of zone. Let's see how it worked. Here's a unique for the NBA 1-2-2 with McDaniels at the top, and I thought this was pretty inspired. The ball screen is ineffective since there are two guards just waiting for him, and now you've got the others desperately trying to create a good shot until Rudy contests perfectly and the defense gets a stop. Great! So what do you imagine they do on the very next possession? Of course, they'd go right back to man-to-man. And while SGA was nowhere to be found, Williams is able to attack that drop coverage into the lane where Rudy is completely ineffective to even challenge the shot. After a long break, SGA checks back in and they go back to that 1-2-2, thankfully, and catch OKC off guard as SGA languishes in the left corner while Naz Reid wisely leaves his left block area to take away the pass to Caruso. Now the offense dies, and they give up a slightly contested three to a guy shooting under 27% from three in the playoffs. Naz Reid got his third foul, so they had to put Rudy back in, and that changed their zone to a regular ho-hum 2-3. And this worked beautifully, as SGA was more than happy to give it up right away, and now the others play with their food until the shot clock winds down and anyone not named Gilgeous-Alexander shoots the ball into a miss. The Thunder do adjust a little by inside ball screening and short rolling, but not with a big man, with Alex Caruso. While the zone was successful getting it out of SGA's hands, they embarrassingly forget to guard the ball. This should be McDaniels on him, but Rudy could have gotten him as well as Randle hugged in to take away the Hartenstein cut. This was even more embarrassing. Even after they win the battle to get it out of SGA's hands, first, check Coach Finch showing Rudy how to get his hand up, while Caruso gets to look around for a bit before deciding to shoot the wide-open 13-footer. What's supposed to happen is, once Wiggins gets the ball, Conley sprints to him so Randle can bump back down, and then Rudy can pick up Caruso and not be afraid of Hartenstein sliding to the hoop. But even if that doesn't happen, McDaniels could easily have gotten over there since he had Edwards covering the backside. It's possible going back and forth between man and zone got confusing, which would be kind of sad for a team that's competing in the conference finals. But how else to explain in the third quarter when Rudy, who had been guarding Hartenstein the whole time, sees him to his left but just decides to run away and pick up Chet? Now, Chet's man, Julius Randle, is completely caught jogging back and out of position, and that means the NBA MVP meets zero resistance on a drive right to the front of the rim. Somehow he blows the layup, but it certainly ain't from anything the defense did. Back to zone with McDaniels playing the center, which I like. This lures SGA to give it up and let J-Dub run the show out top. The inside ball screen simply does not work against a 2-3 zone with the weak side guard waiting and McDaniels at the nail, as Williams continues to be bad from behind the arc. But you can't expect to win a conference finals game on the road if you can't even sprint to your spot on the zone within 6 seconds, as Randle somehow forgets he's the low forward in the left block. So the one guy the entire defense should be keying on gets a free drive right to the rim for a layup. And while the game is close, it's about to be blown completely wide open as Randle is just jogging back down the court after getting cleanly stripped by the help defense, not recognizing there should be red lights flashing and alarms sounding as SGA is the guy bringing it up down the middle of the court. Alexander Walker is left on an island, and it's always a tell that there's a clear foul when the defender tries to hide his hands behind his back. And check the lefty double pump finish off the glass through contact that just continues to prove how damn good this guy really is. Now the Wolves try to get cute by starting out in the 2-3 zone but then morphing to man-to-man midway through the possession. Here's the 2-3 zone, and then once it goes to Chet at the nail, everyone picks up a man. So the Thunder target poor DiVincenzo again, who doesn't have a hope to stop him one-on-one as the pull-up from the baseline doesn't even move the net. I think you get the picture by now that SGA is the key to the whole thing for OKC, and that Minnesota has neither a game plan or the ability to execute or even exert enough hustle to make it work. On a made basket, they still almost don't get back into their zone in time, as this long upcourt pass caught them out of position and the Thunder won't let them off the hook. In a zone, it makes zero sense to be denying SGA at the half court, which allows the pass to Chet, and Edwards is just standing there and not paying attention as the cutter moves right in front of him for the layup. Great recovery, but what do you expect is going to happen from such poor effort to begin with? And I didn't love this call in real time, but there is simply no denying the contact of the forearm is clear and that it dislodged the ball, practically forcing the ref to call it. And to top it off, after falling down by 21 points by the end of the third, they yet again allow the ball screen to be set and just switch this instead of showing him two defenders to get it out of his hands. Once the shot clock hits 5 seconds, you absolutely must send the second defender at him above the three-point line. If he tries to pass it, they'll run out of time to get a good shot. Dante should know this, but instead, he waits till there are 3 seconds on the shot clock and SGA is at the elbow. What is Edwards doing? Why isn't he already next to the shooter who will have no time to do anything but toss it up? Coach Finch and the coaching staff will have to do some soul searching on the way back to Minnesota to not only come up with better defensive tactics, but to get better execution from his players. Worst of all, there's a lack of urgency and effort from these guys, and that's simply unacceptable against any opponent, much less the best team in the NBA with the best perimeter player in the NBA, who will finish the series off right quick if they can't 100% change what they're doing.